We are going to talk about an ellipse. So any idea what shape an ellipse is in? It's kind of like a football, okay? Kind of like an egg. It's an oval, if you will. If you think of an ellipse can be, it can go in two different directions. It can either go up and down, or it can go side to side. Now on your little cheat sheet, which is the same thing I have over here on the board, you're going to have two sides of your cheat sheet. You're going to have the left side where it's a horizontal major axis. And what that means is your ellipse is going to go like this. Okay, so the longer side of your football, or the longer side of the ellipse, is horizontal. That means your major axis is horizontal. If I turn it like this, then you're at the right side of your page, or your major axis is vertical, because the longer side goes up and down. Okay, if you look at your two equations, and like I said, everything on this board is on that paper. If you look at the two equations, these are the form of the equation. You'll notice that on the horizontal side, the A is underneath the X. On the vertical side, your A is underneath the Y. Now, there's nothing magical about that, except for your larger number is always your A. Okay? So if I turn around, and obviously we're going to have to work to get it in that correct form. It's going to take a little work on our part. Before we go on and do that, I do want to explain to you that the ellipse also has what we call foci, which is the plural of a focus, which you had on a parabola. Now, if you think about it, and these are actually even harder to draw, I think, than the circle, and make them look right. You have focus points that are inside the ellipse. If you've ever done any kind of string art, if you think about putting, and I've thought about doing this so that you could visualize it. If I put a nail here and a nail here, and I had a circle string, okay, a string that was tied in a circle, and I took a pencil and pulled out the circle so that it was tight against the pencil, and I drew, it would draw an ellipse. Okay, that's what the focus here doesn't help you draw it. The focus on your parabola, it helped you draw it because you knew that the distance of the latus rectum was cut in half, and you used the focus point to draw it. The focus here does nothing for your drawing. Okay, actually drawing of an ellipse is very, very simple. Finding the focus is a little bit more difficult. Okay, so what we're going to work on, and of course if it's this way, your focus is here and here. Okay, let's say I have something like this. And again, you're going to go straight down your list. My suggestion is that you find H, you find K, but this time, and you find A, you find B, and you find C. Now, if you look at the very bottom of your cheat sheet, you have an equation that says B squared is equal to A squared minus C squared. That's what you're going to use to find the C. Okay? So we're gonna work our way through it. We'll just keep doing problems over and over again, and maybe it will fall into place. Now, how do I know this is not a parallelogram? I mean, it looks really similar. I've got a y squared, I've got an x squared, I've got a number over on the right-hand side. What do I have with this particular equation that makes it different than a parallelogram? Do parallelograms have numbers in front of them? No. No, they do not. Okay, so I can look at this right now and I'm going, this is not a parallelogram. Because parallelogram, I only had and understood one in front of those. Okay, I completed the square. Now, sometimes I would have maybe had to factor out, but I don't remember you guys even doing any of that, okay? So I'm trying to get it in one of those forms, okay? Now, if I look at my cheat sheet, the two forms, notice it has equal to 1, okay? I've got the equation. At the end of the equation, I have 1. So then I turn around and I go, okay, how do I make that 1? Because see, your equation can look like this. I'm just going to make it a blanket equation here. Okay, let's say that the center point's at 0, 0. Okay, that's my equation for our ellipse if it's at 0, 0. How am I going to make that 144 into a 1? How can I make one? I subtract 143 from it, but that doesn't really work. So what would you suggest? How about dividing? If I divide by 144, doesn't 144 divided by 1 equal 1? Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's divide both sides by 144. Okay? Now, take your calculator and go 16 divided by 144. You're going to get a decimal value. I want you to convert it back to a fraction. What'd you get, Joseph?
1/9.
1/9? Okay, so I could rewrite that as x squared over 9, right? How about 4 over 144?
136.
1 over 36. So that can be written like this. Then I've got my equation of my ellipse. It's in the right form. Now, is the larger number on the bottom, is it under the x or under the y?
Y.
It's under the y. So I know that this is a ellipse that has a major axis that's vertical. Okay, the y is your up and down, so that's how you can remember it. So if the y, the number under the y is the larger number, then you know your ellipse is going to go up and down. If the larger number is under the x, you know it's going to go horizontal. Okay, if the larger number is under the y, you're going to use the right-hand side of your page. Okay, that cheat sheet I gave you. If the larger number is on the x, you're under the x, you're going to use the left-hand side. Okay, so my cheat sheet is written on my marker board over there. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go, well, it's not exactly in the right form. But I can put it in the right form by going x minus h, okay? And in this sense, my h is 0, right? Because I don't want to change it. And I have y minus 0 squared. And this is going to be over 9. And this is going to be over 36 equals 1. Now it's in the form that matches up to the equation on the right-hand side of my page, correct? So I go, all right, then I can tell you my center, because if I go down here, my center, it says my center is h and k. So I need to find my h, which is 0, my k, which is 0, in this equation. What is my a value?
1.
What is it?
36.
36 is a squared.
Oh, 6.
6. Okay, so a is 6. What is b?
3.
3. Good. Okay, now this is, so all of those are pretty easy to find. What isn't as easy to find is your c. So you've got to remember this equation. It's written on your cheat sheet. B squared is equal to a squared minus c squared. Now you'll notice that the equation is the same on both sides of your cheat sheet at the bottom. Okay, so that equation is consistent, it doesn't change. So now I want to plug in here. Now I got to go back and square them. So now I have 9 equals 36 minus c squared. So I'm going to subtract 9 minus 36 would be 27, but that's not going to come out. Well, it's negative 27. Equals negative c squared, so c squared is equal to 27. So what is c equal to? Well, I can break it down. That's 9 and 3, isn't it? So it's 3 on the square root of 3. Or I can get a decimal value for it. Okay? All right. So now I've got everything I need. Fair enough? Okay? So I'm going to erase this because this one doesn't have anything to do with my problem. And I'm going to go straight down my list. Now, am I on the left-hand side or the right-hand side?
Alright.
The right-hand side, because remember, the larger number is under the y. Okay, so my ellipse is going to go like this. All right, so on the right-hand side, it asks me for the center. What is the center of this ellipse?
0,
0, 0. Okay, then it asks for the horizontal guide. And what it says is I'm going to take my h value, which is 0, and I'm going to add my c, or actually no, I'm going to add my b to it. So I have 0 plus 3, 0, and I have 0 minus 3, 0. Okay, now that's how I do it, and I'm actually going to do it all over there, then I'll show you how to graph it. Okay, vertical guide. Because I'm going to tell you, graphing it is easier than writing this stuff. Okay, the vertical guide, if you go 0, and now I'm going to add the a to the y value. So I have 0 plus 6, and 0 minus 6. Okay, so far so good? All right, the length of the major is going to be 2 times a. Notice that the length of the major and the length of the minor equations are the same, whether you're on the right-hand side or the left-hand side. Okay, the length of the major is going to be 2 times a, so that's going to be 12. The length of the minor is going to be 2 times b, or in this case, it's going to be 6. All right, so we've done everything they've asked for. Now, let me show you how easy it is to graph this, okay? All right, where's my center? 0, 0. So I'm going to put a little X on the center, okay? Now, the one thing that I haven't, I didn't do the focus yet. Let me go back and do the focus here. Notice the focus is the part that has to do with the C, which I already found. Okay, so the focus on this one, according to my equation, is h, which is 0, and then I'm going to take the 0, which is my k, and add the c to it and subtract the c. So it's 3 on the square root of 3, and 0, negative 3 on the square root of 3. Okay? Just according to my equations. Now, back over here to graphing. So here's my center. I know on this, on the x-axis, underneath this, what is the square root of 9? 3. So I'm going to go over 3 to the right, 3 to the left. Underneath my y, what is the square root of 36? 6. So I'm going to go up 6 from my center, down 6 from my center. These are my horizontal guides, my vertical guides. All I have to do is connect them. And I have my ellipse. Now the only thing I haven't put on the ellipse is my focus. Now is the focus going to be up and down, or is it going to be horizontal? Focus is always on your major axis. So if it's up and down, then it's going to fall, and all I have to do is follow what I've already done there. So 3 on the square root of 3. I know at first this is weird, but it falls into place, I promise you. So I'm talking about 5.2. So I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.2, which is about right there. Then it's negative 5.2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it's about right there. And I'm done. That's all there is to it. Now, obviously, that's really kind of almost in the right form for you. It's always easier when the center's at 0, 0, because then you're just counting up almost like the x and the y have different radius to them. Okay. All right. Let's do another one. Okay, because the more we do of these, the better it's going to be. At first, it's going to seem weird. All right. Let's do this one. We'll still leave it the center of 0, 0. I'm gonna leave all this stuff over here. All right, what if I have 49x squared plus 16y squared equals 784? What do you think I'm going to do to put it in the right form?
Divide by 700.
I'm going to divide by 784. Now, if I were you, I would always use my calculator on that. So I would do 49 divided by 784, and then I'm going to convert it back to a fraction, and it's going to give me 1 over 16. So that gives me x over 16. I'm going to do the same thing with the 16. I'm going to divide it by 784, and then I'm going to convert it back, and I'm going to get y squared over 49 equals 1. Now I'm going to tell you, this is not always the case, but most of the time on your equations that they are giving you in the book, if you multiply these two together, you get that. Okay, most of the time they do it that way. There are a few exceptions. All right, so is this going to be a vertical ellipse or is this going to be a horizontal ellipse?
Vertical.
It's going to be vertical because the larger number is under the y. So again, we're on the right-hand side of the page. Where's my center point?
0,
0,
0.
0, because I could write this like that. Okay? So h is 0, k is 0. What is my a value?
7.
7, because the square root of 49 is 7. What is my b value?
4.
4. All right, the only thing I have left then is to find my c value. Remember this equation. Now this equation is very important because when we go on to the hyperbola, that equation for finding the c is different. So this equation is unique to the ellipse. So my b squared is 16. My a squared is 14 minus something doesn't seem right there.
49.
49, not 14. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to subtract. When I subtract, what do I get? 16 minus.
Negative 33.
What is it? 33? Negative 33. Good. Negative 33 equals negative c squared. So c squared is equal to 33. Well, can't break that down. I'm just going to leave it as the square root of 33. Okay? So that's what my c is. All right, so now I have everything. Just like with a parabola, now all I have to do is go down my cheat sheet and fill in. Now, I can graph it first if I want, because it is so really the ellipse is one of my favorite ones to graph because it's very easy to do, especially when it's at 0, 0. So there's my center point. If I look at my equation, how many am I going to go up and down on my y for my center?
7.
7, okay, because the square root of 49 is 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's one of my vertical guides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's my other vertical guide. Now, horizontal, how far am I going to go over?
4.
4. Those are my horizontal guides. Now, I just form my ellipse. Okay? Now, the only thing I haven't put on there is my focus points. Okay, which we'll find over here. So my center of this is at 0, 0.